Oh, they've already turned it off. Well, good evening, everyone. Boy, this is a nice group tonight. You probably will have some interesting discussions. I'm Pat O'Bannon. I'm the supervisor from the Tuckahoe District and this year's chairman of the Board of Supervisors. And on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I thank you for being here tonight and participating, because we need everyone in the county should express their opinion about what it is that they're very concerned about. And we are here, of course, for tonight's community visioning workshop. This is the first public meeting as part of the HenricoNext, the process we're following to update the county's comprehensive plan. And with your input tonight and in the weeks and months ahead, this is not just one night, it's different meetings and different processes. And with your input in the months ahead, that will help determine how our community grows and develops over the next 2 decades. Now, I want to put a little something in here. The first one of these that I participated in the 1970s, we decided that we wanted county parks. And we soon had our first county park. Does anybody know what that was? Cheswick. And because I was here when we said we really want county parks, I got a personal invitation to attend the first day it was open. Another one was in the 80s. And if you remember the 1980s, I know I had a computer. It was a Macintosh, and it was about this big. If I wanted to carry it home, I would lift it up like a suitcase. But we had no idea about telecommunications towers. So our vision, of course, was with technology, and we wanted these things that we talked about. But when it came down to it, we had no idea we were going to need telecommunications towers. So what we're doing is visioning. You can't totally predict the future, but you try to put out there what you are hoping you will find and hoping you will see for the most part, or generally. And Lewis Carroll wrote in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, "If you don't know where you are going, any road will get you there." So you need to know approximately where you're headed. And you may have to adjust. You might have to build a telecommunications tower, or you may not be able to put the park there. You might have to move it over here. But that's what this visioning is for. In Henrico, we need and want to know where we are going. We want a vision for the future that reflects what this community wants. And your ideas and your engagement are essential. So get out your computers or your cell phones or your smartphone or your iPad, whatever you brought. Hopefully you brought something. Okay, your pen and paper if you didn't. And we're going to start now. So fire them up. Thank you. I'm going to start with one of the people who's really got the visioning down.
Thank you, Chairman O'Bannon. Good evening, everyone. Yes, thank you. Thank you. And thank you all for coming. My name's Greg Dale. I'm a principal with McBride Dale Clarion. We're affiliated with Clarion Associates, and I'll introduce a couple people from Clarion here in just a minute. But it's my pleasure to essentially be the facilitator of this discussion tonight. So a couple of things before we jump into the substance. First of all, I know most of you have probably already done this. For those of you who are in the physical audience, there are probably even more people joining us virtually. But for those of you here, that address up there, that public input address, is the one you want to plug in, because we're going to be doing some polling questions here. One thing that I think you've heard people mention already is that first after the slash, that's an I, not a 1. Okay, so that's I04838. I know that's confusing. You can go ahead and pull that up. You don't have to do it now. We'll get to that, and I'll explain all that as we get going. A couple of introductions. First of all, we have either all of the Planning Commission members either here or one's on their way, I think, that might be stuck in traffic. So Chris Archer, Greg Baca, William McKee, Melissa Thornton, and Bob White. I hope I have those names right. Maybe if you're here. Whitty, thank you. Just raise your hand. Yeah, raise your hands just so they know. These are the planning commissioners. For those of you who are new to this process, they are the board that's responsible for advising the supervisors on matters related to planning and development, including this plan. We also have Joe Emerson, who's the Director of Planning for the county staff. Jean Moore, where is Jean, is the Assistant Director, and then a number of other folks from staff are walking around. You'll know them from their name tags. You'll have an opportunity to interact with them later if you choose to do that. A couple of other folks here from the consulting team. Leanne King, who is a principal with Clarion Associates, is actually the project manager on this. You notice she's sitting very close to me. That's for a reason. In case I have problems, she's going to rescue me. And Emily Gavino is, I think, working in the other room doing the work for the online. Okay, so let me jump into what we're doing. So as you figured out, this is a hybrid workshop. And what that means is that there are people who are joining us virtually from home and people who are here. This is a relatively new thing that has become commonplace in a hurry. And so we hope the technology is all smoothed out. You never know with technology, but everything we're going to be doing here in terms of the meeting, people at home are tracking along with it. So I'll describe just a little bit more about that. But speaking of the technical assistance, if you have technical problems, Livingston Lewis has kind of been the point person for doing that. If he can't help you, he can direct you to somebody who can. For those of you who are at home, if you have a technical problem, type your question into the comment section in the online version, and we have people who will help you with that who are in another room. So that's what this is all about. Okay, so in terms of what we want to do here, because of the hybrid nature of this, this is not going to be a traditional public workshop that you might be used to attending in other cases. In other words, there's not going to be an opportunity for you to have speak your piece here in front of everybody, because some people are at home, they can't do that. And so we need to keep it controlled. So we're doing a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to give an overview of the planning process, as well as an overview of the kind of existing conditions. I'll describe what all that means here in just a minute. So that's probably going to take about 20 or 25 minutes. Frankly, we're trying to whet your appetite for some of the planning issues that we're facing. We want to highlight some of the major trends that are facing and all those sorts of things. We'll get to that. Then we're going to do a polling exercise, and that's why you all have your phones in front of you trying to tap in that address. When we get to that, there will be polling questions, like survey kinds of questions where you pick a choice. You'll be doing that. Folks at home will be doing that. And you'll be able to see at least some of the results of that as we go. But the other thing to understand is that polling is going to stay open for how long, Leanne?
Until April 13th.
Until April 13th. So you can do this tonight. You can complete it tonight. You can go home and complete it. But in any case, what we hope you also do is go home and tell your friends and family members to get online and do the same thing, because we really want to try to get as many people who take those polling questions as we can. The first part of those we're going to do together. I'm going to walk you through that. And then the second part of that is essentially self-paced, meaning you can either sit here tonight and go ahead and do that after we're finished, or you can go home and do it at your own pace. If a lot of you probably will think it's easier to do on a laptop than on your phone. One of those exercises is going to be dealing with a map, which probably is easier to do on a larger screen, but that's up to you. But in any case, that polling is going to be open until April 13th, we just said. Then the other thing that we're doing is we're calling it Ask the Planner, or Ask a Planner. So there are the planners that you see walking around with their name tags on. After we finish the organized part of this, they're going to be out in the lobby. So if there are things you want to talk about in terms of recreation and parks, or planning, or transportation, there are folks out there that you can find that will do that. And that can either be for you to ask a question, it can be to make a comment, it can be to, try to understand something, or to express your opinion. So, if you came here today with something on your mind that you wanted to get off, that you wanted to communicate, that would be the forum for doing that. And by the way, the polling questions, many of the polling questions are also open-ended, where you can write longer responses into them. So there's no shortage, I think, in terms of your ability to be able to comment on matters of substance here. Okay, so let me do this. Let me walk you through the process that's being followed with this. So, you know, when you do a comprehensive plan, you don't just hire consultants and have them go home and do it and bring it back and make a recommendation to you. There's a process involved here. It's a deep, extensive process of research and analysis and consideration of alternatives and public input and so forth. So I just want you to understand a little bit about this process. So first of all, the term HenricoNext is actually the term that's being applied to this planning process. It's essentially the brand for the process. So if you hear that term HenricoNext, it's the comprehensive plan process that we're talking about here. But I think it's also important to understand this is not a first-time activity for this county. In fact, the previous plan, which you see highlighted there, which was done in gets a little confusing, prepared in 2009, looking at the year out to the year 2026. That's why it's called the 2026 plan, but it was done in 2009. I was actually involved in that process. That was an extensive process as well. But, you know, it's interesting, the planning history, the planning culture in this community goes back some 80 plus years to 1938 for your first master plan. And you can see all the kinds of things that that have been done: the thoroughfare planning, parks and recreation, and open space planning, land use planning, the comprehensive planning, and then lots of specialized plans, small area plans, focus area plans, that is plans that look at particular smaller areas of the county and focus on them. So the Innsbrook plan in 2010, for example, the route corridor study in 2018, are all efforts that have been involved. And that 2009 plan, the 2026 plan, has been amended several times along the way. This is the first major update amendment to it. And that's why it's such an extensive process here. So in terms of the comprehensive plan, for those of you who are new to it, there are a number of things that these comprehensive plans do. First of all, Chairman O'Bannon made the point that we need a plan. And I hope everybody would agree that when we're talking about an organization, in this case a county, for any major organization, people want to think that there's a plan for it, right? I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. But comprehensive plans do a number of other things. They deal with issues related to quality of life and community character, but they also serve then as guides to investment. So when the county is making investments and infrastructure, whether it's recreation and parks or transportation, the comprehensive plan can serve as that framework. And we hope that you would all agree that one of the things that's incumbent on local governments like counties is that they do things in a fiscally responsible manner. And Henrico has always been very, very efficient and interested in being fiscally responsible in terms of the stewardship of taxpayers' dollars. Well, a comprehensive plan can help guide those decisions. A comprehensive plan can also then serve as a guide to development decisions. When someone comes in and proposes to do something, it's a guide for that decision. So this comprehensive plan is a multifaceted kind of thing. And the things you see listed here are the kinds of things that comprehensive plans address: neighborhoods, transportation, recreation and parks, land use, transportation, all the kinds of things that you see here. But at its heart, I think it's important to understand that comprehensive plans are really about the physical place of the county, that the physical characteristics of the county, how land is used, how public services and facilities are provided related to that land, what resources are important to preserve, what cultural and natural and historic resources are important to preserve. It is primarily a physical oriented plan that we're most interested in. And then this graphic is way too detailed for you to look at. What we simply want you to understand is that there is a schedule involved in this plan. There is a series of steps that are set out. There are things like deliverables here, the kinds of reports that we're going to be talking about tonight. But basically, I think it's at its heart, it's a pretty logical process. It's you analyze trends and conditions, you evaluate alternatives for the future, you develop the plan, and you figure out strategies and actions to implement the plan. As Chairman O'Bannon indicated, this is ultimately a pretty simple concept. Where are we now? Where do we want to be, and how do we get there, right? It's a lot more complicated than that when you put it onto a schedule and you're dealing with a geography of the magnitude of Henrico County, but it's really that kind of logical idea. So that's the process. There is a project website that I urge you to mark down, or if you're home, pull it up and bookmark it. HenricoNext.us, not .com, HenricoNext.us. Check that website. There are already information and reports available on there, and that will be the primary mechanism for keeping people up to date on that. Okay. All right, so let me shift gears now. I want to talk a little bit about the existing conditions, the where are we part of the where are we, where do we want to be, and how do we get there. So we start with looking at existing conditions. I'm going to focus primarily on demographic, socio-demographic kinds of information. I want to introduce you to the transportation aspect of this process and to the recreation and parks aspect of this process. There are reports related to all of those that are available for review. There are other reports that are being finalized as we speak, related to housing, related to the connection between housing and business and industrial use, and the built environment that are yet to come. But let me just focus on a couple of these as we go. So the first thing I think from a demographic perspective that's important to understand is that the population growth in Henrico has been slowing. You can see the chart there, which tracks all the way back to 1900. You can see the starting in the 1950s, of course, the post-World War II boom and the baby boom, population growth has obviously taken off. But what's interesting is that, let me give you some statistics here. The growth of population in the 90s was 20%. The growth of population in the early 2000s, 2000 to 2010, was 17%. The growth from 2010 to about now is about 9%. So you're still growing, but you're growing at a slower rate. No great surprise for those of you who know the county and know that a lot of the land has essentially been filling up. And by the way, that's generally consistent with what's been happening in other similar communities. That's nothing surprising here. But it is a record low growth rate that you are facing here, and that's important to understand. And at the same time, again, no surprise necessarily, it's an aging population, right? About 28% of your population right now is 55 or older. I see a lot of fellow baby boomers around the audience here. What has been a dominant demographic cohort in our population is aging. I mean, the bulk of the baby boomers are now at retirement age, and so that trend is going to continue to occur. At the same time, the diversity of the population has changed. As of, I think this is the most recent 2020 census, 50% of your population, only 50% of your population identifies as what's known as white alone. The other 50% of your population is a much more diverse mix of ethnicities and nationalities. You have 13% of the residents in the county right now are foreign born. So you have a much more diverse population in Henrico County. In terms of where the residents live, this map shows the county. Just to orient you, you see the big looping circle, that's 295. North is actually kind of tilted that way, you know that, I think. And so no great surprise, the darker the color is where the denser population is, and that's primarily focused on the western half of the county. You can see out to the east, I think you can see the airport, which is another kind of visual marker for you, and you can see those patterns. Again, no great surprise. And by the way, those few light spots in the western part of the county that look like they're low population are actually where some of your employment centers are, so they don't show up as population. You've seen a slower growth in housing. Obviously, if you're seeing a slower growth in population, you're seeing slower growth in housing. So again, statistically, the rate of growth has slowed a fair amount. Your single family to multifamily ratio, though, has stayed about the same. You're at about 65% single family, 35% multifamily. But you can see the single family in the green and the multifamily in the blue, and you can see that while it has increased, you can see that is starting to kind of flatten in terms of the growth. Housing values have been increasing. This is an interesting one that we've struggled with a little bit because we're working with best data available. So what we know is that from 2010 to 2019, you went from about 230,000 median home value to 242,000 median home value in 2019. I think we all know that that number has probably even gone substantially up from there. We have some information on that, but frankly, we don't have information that we're comfortable enough yet as being reliable to put out there. And frankly, I think that's probably anybody who shops for housing probably knows how volatile that market is. So we wanted to put that out there, but with that caveat, that was occurring. In terms of rental housing, it's interesting. In the industry, there's this term called cost burden. It's a way of measuring affordability of housing. And right now, you have 50% of the renters in this county spend more than 30% of their income on rent and utilities. That's kind of the bar. That's kind of the metric for cost burden. So you have, half of the renters in this county are essentially cost burden as it related to rental housing. At the same time, this is an interesting heading to me because it says median income remains steady, meaning that from 2010 to 2020, the median income has stayed about the same. It's actually gone down just a hair. So I guess the glass is half full, it's remained steady. The half is glass empty, it's kind of stagnated. It's been fairly level in terms of that. But again, I think that's reflective of national trends. Your poverty rate has actually dropped a little bit in that time period. It was at 10%, now it's at 9%. So that has dropped just a little bit. In terms of the economy and employment, this chart, which you probably can't see very well from there, identifies the top employment sectors, so management, business, financial, office, administrative, education, legal, sales, and related, that kind of cluster. That's about 52% of your employment. Again, pretty consistent from what I understand from what you see statewide as well. And in terms of the top growth industries, we're just talking about aging population and aging baby boomers. Perhaps no surprise that the top growth industry in the county right now is healthcare. And then following that, it's again, some of those same finance and insurance, professional, technical kinds of fields. But the healthcare is the highest growth. And again, I think that's pretty consistent with what we're seeing elsewhere. Overall, Henrico County is a fairly well-educated population. Over 40% of adults over 25 have a bachelor's degree or higher. That's actually up from 2010, about 5%. But at the same time, as you can see from the chart on the right, that varies greatly depending upon your demographic profile. That's very sensitive to ethnicity, for example, in terms of educational attainment. So good news and bad news in that sense, I think. Okay, let's shift over. I want to just give you a peek into the world of transportation planning so that you can maybe think about this as you're making your comments. So transportation, first of all, let's talk about management of county roads. Transportation is not limited to roads, but let's start with that. So the county Department of Public Works oversees the county roads. 80% of your lane miles in the county is managed by the Department of Public Works, 20% by VDOT, the Virginia Department of Transportation. And those are everything from urban to suburban to rural roads. They're everything from what planners refer to as arterials, major roads, collectors, and local roads. It's a very diverse range of types of roads. And then when we talk about planning for transportation, you're going to learn a new term here tonight. And if you want to impress your friends, you talk about the VC ratio of road. That's volume to capacity. And that's a pretty intuitive kind of an idea. And that is you have a certain volume that roads are designed for. A certain amount of volume that's actually on the roads, the amount of cars or other vehicles on the roads. And then you have a capacity, a theoretical amount of traffic that a road is designed to take. And you can look at the volume to capacity ratio, and that will tell you where roads are over capacity and where they're under capacity. So your county public works department tracks that pretty closely. You can look at this map closer when you get home. It's color coded. Not surprising, a lot of the roads that have volume to capacity issues are focused more on the western part of the county. Huguenot, Knuckles, Cox, West Broad, a lot of those roads that you know are the ones that are dealing with those capacity issues. So that ability of a road to accommodate the traffic and to be designed to accommodate both existing and future traffic is important. But so is safety. So we track safety information in terms of vehicular crashes. So it's interesting. You've had from 2016 to 2021, 28,000 crashes in this county. Now, the vast majority of those are just property damage related. You've had 117 fatalities as a result of that. And again, not surprising that the bulk of those incidents are going to be focused where the bulk of the traffic is, which is in the western part of the county. But then we also look at non-vehicular, non-automobile transportation. Active transportation refers to transportation that's essentially human-powered, walking and biking in particular. So the county does have a lot of bike lanes, shared youth paths, sidewalks. In fact, from a county perspective, it's the most extensive system of all the counties in the region. You've got like 49 miles of bike paths. Again, mostly in the west, but certainly in the eastern part of the county, the Capitol Trail, for example, you have some tremendous facilities. And there is actually a draft bike and trail plan that is actually being developed, and there's a draft map that is available right now for you to go look at that's kind of tracking parallel to this. Todd Ure is up there. Todd, if you're interested in that, talk to Todd about that. Todd, is there a particular place you would direct them to go look at that right now? Okay. So if you want to go see Todd, or if you're online, if you want to put a question in a comment, then Todd can respond to that as well. And then, of course, you have the Grtc transit service, which is focused in Richmond, but extends out into the county. And there are lots of plans, local bus routes, express routes, paratransit, lots of diversity there. I've just recently learned about the new 7.5 mile pulse line that comes out into the county from the east. And I know the county's been very active in regional planning activities related to that service. And then finally, just to put on the table that when we talk about transportation, it's not just about people driving, it's not just about different modes of people traveling, but it's also about freight as well. It's also about air travel as well. So all of those issues are part of this mix of transportation planning. All right, and then the other major topic we wanted to talk about here is the recreation and parks planning, which is another activity that's occurring parallel to this and part of this. So again, just to kind of introduce you to some of the concepts in recreation and parks planning, the county tracks this, manages this very carefully. They know exactly how many acres you have. They obviously have inventories of all the facilities. Those are all listed here, over 3,000 acres of parks, 27 different parks, and then plus athletic facilities and so forth. I won't read you all these numbers. You can look at this at your leisure, but we understand that parks, recreation and parks are a kind of cornerstone aspect of quality of life, and that is part of what we're looking at here. There are staff from Recreation and Parks here that you can talk to after the meeting as well. The other thing that I would just mention is that they've been very active in assessing your recreation and park facilities recently. So there was 2021 assessment of that looked at conditions and needs, and not surprisingly, there's a diverse range of issues. Certainly from what I've read, the older parks are obviously most likely to need attention. But the other thing that's interesting to me about that is the opportunities for connectivity that are being looked at. So you think, for example, about the bike and pedestrian planning that's done by Public Works, and then you think about the parks planning that's done by Recreation and Parks, and the potential ability to try to link those, I think, is a real potential thing that we can be thinking about here. Okay, so I just buzzed you through about 100 pages worth of studies. Those reports are available now online. The three that I focused on are listed here. So if you got interested in anything, please go look at those. Those are available for you to review, and then keep visiting back, because there are at least two, maybe four more reports that are going to be coming out related to housing and housing connectivity to employment, market feasibility, market related issues, the built and natural environment, all those kinds of things that planners love to read about. So keep your eye on those, and those will be available. Okay. So that's that part of it. Yes. And by the way, I'm happy to take a few clarifying questions, but again, because people at home aren't here to ask questions and have them answered, I don't want to do that too much, but let's take just a few clarifying questions. Mm-hmm. You had to stump me on the very first question, didn't you? I don't think they are. I think those are real numbers. I don't think that those numbers are adjusted for inflation. Rosemary, is that? Yeah. 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 I know generally when they report those, they're actual numbers, and we can talk more about that, and we can direct you to the appropriate staff person that can direct you to that. Okay. Okay. So let's move on then. Okay. What I need to do next is to pull up our survey. So you should be seeing this question on your phone, and at home people should be tracking. So there are a series of kind of introductory questions like this. We've got 7 questions that are really related to like who you are and what some of your demographics are, and then we're going to get into some substantive questions. So if you don't see this, if you're not here, raise your hand, and Livingston can help you, hopefully. So let's give it a try here. So you see the first question is, how long have you lived in Henrico County? What you see on your screen doesn't look exactly like what you see on this screen, because this is actually starting to show results already. But you should be able to put that in there. Everybody able to do that? Okay, I'm going to keep going through these because I don't think we have to wait to see all the demographic information. And by the way, as people do this at home, either now or tonight or tomorrow or next week or whatever it is, that will continue to get updated. So let's just go on to the next question. What is your home zip code? You should have a place in there where you can just type in your zip code. And by the way, I think we mentioned if you don't want to do this on your phone, or you're not comfortable, again, either you can go home and do it on your computer, or we do have paper copies if you would like to do that. Okay. Next question, what magisterial district do you live in? Okay, I'm going to keep going. What is your age? And you see your categories here. You don't have to tell us exactly how old you are. Okay, good. What is your race? All right. Ethnicity? Okay. And your gender? That's our last kind of demographic question. Okay, everybody ready? All right, so we're going to go to some kind of opinion-oriented questions here that are going to require a little bit more time and thought, I think, so we'll give you a little bit more time to do these. So we're going to start with number one. You could choose to live in other places. Why do you choose to live in Henrico County? And you all can see this, right? I don't have to read everything with you. Okay. I'm gonna wait just a few extra seconds here because folks who are tracking at home might have a little bit of a delay here. And I'm stalling here for a second to see the results pop up. If the results are too slow in calculating, I'm not gonna wait. Again, because what you would be seeing is the results of these people right here, right now, and the people at home doing it. But that's going to change anyway as people do it over the next couple of weeks. So, all right. Next question. What do you value most about Henrico County? I'm just kind of watching for eyeballs. So look up once you have completed it. And I have a feeling some of you are going ahead. How would you rate the overall quality of life today in Henrico County? Quality of life includes the economic, social, and environmental health, well-being, and vitality of the community. Okay. What do you think is Henrico County's biggest challenge today? Sorry. Please use 1 to 3 words to describe this challenge. So you should be able to just type that in. Short phrases. We start to see some of the comments coming up. Some of these are probably from people who got on right as the meeting started and went ahead and did this. So Excellent. Ready to move on or good? Okay. Let's move on. When you think about your ideal vision of Henrico County in 25 years, what words come to mind? Please provide up to 5 words that express your vision for the county's future. I'll give you a minute before I show what other people have done. Yes, I think so. The way she can. A little better? Yeah, yeah. Okay, ready to go? All right, now we need to make it a little smaller again, I think. Well, you can see it on your screen. What aspects of the county's physical environment, and we mean things like land use and design, are generally satisfactory to you? And you can see the things listed here like residential neighborhoods, shopping and entertainment centers. Make sense? Ready to go? Okay, what are the top needs for parks and recreation facilities in Henrico? Okay, what aspects of the county's established physical environment should be priorities for improvement or change? And by the way, we're on 8 out of 14 questions. Good. Need me to slow down, let me know. Otherwise, I'll keep it going. Okay, how do you travel to most destinations in the county today? You can see your choices there. Ready? Okay. If you could choose a different mode, how would you prefer to travel to destinations in the future? Ready? What are your biggest transportation concerns for the future? Ready? Okay. Which of the following community planning topics should be priorities for the county? Give you a little longer on this one. Ready to move on? As we look to the next 20 years, where do you want the county to grow in your magisterial district? So the next question is going to be countywide. This is just focusing on your magisterial district. Ready? And then finally, same question, but countywide. As we look to the next 20 years, where do you want growth to be located countywide? Okay, so that's the last question of the group exercise. Again, I urge you, I ask you to go home and tell other people about this, send them to the website, have them take this, your family, your friends, whoever. That would really be helpful. The more people that we can get to do this, the better. And again, this is going to be up and running until April 13th. The next section is really at your own pace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you what these next two polling questions are, because they're different and they need a little bit of explanation. And then we're essentially stopping the formal part of the presentation. You are free to sit here to complete those questions, or you can decide you want to go home to do that, or you can then get up and go talk to the planners out in the lobby to ask the planners or talk to the planners part of this. And that will be at your pace. But let me show you what we have here, because I think these are really kind of interesting and engaging exercises. So there's two things. There's a mapping exercise that allows you to zoom into Henrico County here. And you can see already that people at home have probably already been doing this. Maybe some of you have as well. This is the one that I said is probably a little harder to do on your phone. You can do it, but this is one where you might want to go at your leisure at home. So what you have here, you see these buttons at the top, these color-coded buttons. Those are tied to the descriptions here. So this is going to allow you to drop a pin, basically, on a particular location in the county related to, and let me go through each one of these. Protect, that is places you want to stay the same. Change, places you want to change. Grow housing, places you support development of new housing. Grow employment, places you support development of new businesses and jobs. Investment, places you want to see public investment made to existing or new facilities such as libraries, community centers, parks, recreation facilities, schools, etc. Transportation, places you'd like to see transportation facilities, roads, bike paths, sidewalks, etc., enhanced or added. So the way this works is, again, you can zoom into the map as close as you want. You can get down to, you know, pretty much a site-specific kind of a level here, and then you take the pins that are color-coded to the categories I just went through, and you drag them. So let's assume I want to say we want to protect this area right here. I don't even know what it is. I just made it up because it drops a pin, and then you say comment box that pops up. So you can go in and type as much as you want us to hear about that. So you drop a pin and you explain why you dropped the pin or what you're interested in. So that's, again, you can do that here. You can do that on your phone. It's a little clunky on your phone, but you can do it. It's probably easier to do it at home, so you can go do that as well. So I'm going to X out of there so my pen doesn't drop, but you can see that other people have already done this. And again, maybe some of you have already done this, but just be aware, you can go anywhere in the county and you can go to, you know, as high a level, you get to a certain level of detail and you can see buildings pop up. You could see a parcel line. You can see a particular home. You can see as much detail as you want to see. Does that make sense to everybody? It's a really fun exercise, and it allows you to be as specific or as general as you want. And you can see the magisterial district lines drawn on here as well. So that's one exercise. The other one is you will see up here at the top, you've already done the poll there. So over to the top, you see vision and goals. So let me explain what these are. These are statements that come from the current plan. These are not just created statements. So you see, for example, enhance quality of life and foster a sense of well-being and community. What we're asking you to do is to tell us whether you agree or disagree with that, and you do that by using this sliding scale. So on the left, if you extremely do not support it, or you highly support it, or anywhere you want to put it in the middle here, you do. And there's, gosh, I don't know, 15 or 20 of these, and they're related to different categories. So we have a category here on land use and community character, and then a category on local economy, category on transportation, public infrastructure and services, natural, cultural, and historic resources, recreation, parks, and open space are all different categories. So, but again, what I want to emphasize is what we're trying to do here is to either validate or challenge those. Those were the values that came out in 2009. Those were the statements of vision and goals that were agreed to back then. So we're just simply trying to revisit those and assess the extent to which people still agree or disagree with those, and whether you have any other comments. And again, use that sliding bar to do that. So again, you can do that here if you want to just go ahead and get it done, or you can do that at your leisure. Okay? All right. So I think then what we want to do here is to wrap up, and we will leave this slide up. So again, Ask a planner. We've got a time of basically the next half an hour, to mill around and talk to planners out there. Thank you. And you then can also see the website there, and you can comment through the website. But if you want to communicate something specific, use that email address, that compplan@henrico.us. You might want to write that down, COMPPLAN@henrico.us. That's a more direct way to communicate if you've got a particular question or something like that. That goes to the people who are managing the process. You can use the website if you want, but that's a more direct means of communication. So with that, I think we will bring this part of the program to a close. For those of you who are at home, you will just see this screen up here, and you can continue to comment or ask questions of planners through the chat box. And this is going to stay up until April 13th. And again, we'll just see how long people want to stick around here. I suspect within the next half an hour or so, people will probably start to filter out. So that concludes our structured presentation and discussion for the evening. Quick question? Yes. Yes. HenricoNext, including all three of those reports, and keep your eyes on it because again, 4 or 5 more reports are going to be coming out with additional detail. Yeah, HenricoNext, that's the brand that you want to keep in mind. Tell your friends about that. Direct them to the website, direct them to the survey. The more people we can get, the better. Okay? All right, so with that, you can sit here and continue to do the surveys, or you can go chat with folks in the lobby at your leisure. And for the folks at home, that ends the formal part of this. Thank you all very much.